Do you ever open your closet and think, why did I buy that? I definitely have, a lot. But not since shopping with Quince. I see fewer misses and a lot more hits that I'll be wearing season after season. Quince has all the seasonal must-haves, like 100% European linen shirts from $30, performance polos, and versatile activewear. The best part of all, Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of all the middlemen and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. I really like that. I just got 2 shirts. I ordered a third. It's coming in a week. I got 2 shirts. I just got them a couple days ago. The quality is unmatchable. I love them. They feel great. They fit great. That's why you got to shop at Quince. Fill your closet with timeless pieces that you'll be wearing for summers to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/Bubba for free shipping on your order and a 365-day return policy. That's QUINCE.com/Bubba to get free shipping on your order. And again, the 365-day return policy. Quince.com/Bubba.
Welcome to the Wrestling Show. My name is Seth Kushner, back with the Gary Cantrell. What's going on, Gary?
Hey man, I'm doing pretty good. I heard you guys had a rain out last night. I know you guys will address it on the show, but do you have any just quick thoughts before we get into all the wrestling stuff?
Yeah, the quick thoughts is that I'm going to talk to Bubba that we should never have an event in the summer again, ever. This is 2 straight rainouts. Now the thing was, last night everybody had a good time because you could eat, you could drink. It was all still part of the package. Everybody was hanging out. The baseball game didn't happen, but no one was too disappointed. Obviously, we had the rain out the week before Latin Sons, but I think that we need to clear out and make everything the fall or spring or winter. And I don't think we need to do anything in the summertime anymore.
Well, maybe unless you do some kind of indoor, some huge bar. Do you guys have any cool big indoor? I feel like that might do well for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, there was 170 people there that paid $50 for those tickets last night. So, I mean, if we went and, showed up at a bar somewhere where people say didn't have to pay to get in, we could do something massive. It's just, it's just part of, I think, living in Florida. And, but just back to back kind of sucks. So, yeah, so last night, so it was a whirlwind, man. It was cool to see everybody was there. I saw, Tuttle was there. Dr. Dan was there. Rio and Craig from Pigmentation were there. I mean, the Bubba Army, it was almost like Barb, Bubba Army royalty, everybody you could imagine. Everybody's great, Gary. I mean, the thing is, this isn't I don't want to self-fillet at all, but, there are people when I do these events, which are, that they're very happy that I'm back and, we talk about it. And there's some people, dude, that almost can't even express their appreciation. One guy was just so caught up. He's like, man, I just appreciate you. So that stuff is always great to be around people. Not that I walk away getting some ego stroke that I'm important, but just knowing that because there's artists and there's things I appreciate. So if I got to go relay to Eminem or let's say anybody that gave a shit that I love their art or I love what they do, I would just want them to know, how much I appreciate it. With that all being said, they canceled the game last night, Gary. So obviously my first pitch was canceled.
Yes.
All of a sudden I start getting Dr. Dan comes running out to me. By the way, let me just say this. My wife talked to my daughter before we went, said, don't, beg, don't ask people for money. She didn't, Gary. She walked out with $70 fucking last night.
Unbelievable.
$70. Yeah, and she got 50 earlier for my dad's bar mitzvah. So my daughter made $120 on Saturday.
For a child, that's a hell of a haul, man. I got to tell you.
Well, I mean, anytime you get around the Bubba Army, a guy that drove down from North Carolina, Gary. So the shit's rained out. Guy drives down from North Carolina, is as happy as can be. Just gives her $60. I mean, it's just
he came to you from North Carolina and then gave her $60 as well.
Right. It's
wow.
So, I mean, just, it's, people like to make fun of the Bubba Army that it's, listener funded and all this shit. But I mean, these people, you meet people in real life, Tile Guru's wife, people that you just see on chat. And you're like, who the fuck are these people? And you see, they're all good people. So I got to start giving the people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to chat. I was a little on the chip this week, so I need to stand down a little bit more.
Yeah, well, here's what I will say, and this will kind of like slowly transition us towards the wrestling direction, but like I know the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight got canceled, but Jake Paul's coming to Tampa on that day, and he's facing what is that guy's name? Everybody's going to clown me now, but I don't follow the boxing like super closely, but
they're fighting here?
Yes, they're fighting at the y'all's arena down there. Emily, yep.
How I don't know. Did they just announce it? I feel like I should know about this.
Just announced last week, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, what do you think? We should go to the event or something?
I think we should do something. That's going to be the day. Obviously, that'll be I think my last day in town, and I think we should definitely do, whether it's cash cubing it or trying to get credentialed or something. We should be in there in the mix doing something, and I think it would be great.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing I'll talk to the boss man about this week. So listen, we're going to segue into the wrestling. Let's start, before we get into all the WWE stuff, let's go ahead and just start off with AEW. What was it, Collision? Is that the show that was in town this weekend, or Dynamite? What is it?
It was Dynamite with a Rampage kicker, as Bubba might say. And that's the thing too. I just want to say that real quick, like, they tape an entire show after the main show. So, like, they go up to 11, they hit that curfew or whatever, but it goes a little bit past 11. But, like, having a 2-hour live show followed into a 1-hour tape show, there's a lot of fatigue there, dude. I got to tell you that right now.
Like, crowd fatigue, or just, like, fatigue of just that's a lot. I mean, I guess it's probably the most economical for them to do it that way, and I get that. But, yeah, 3-4 hours of straight wrestling is a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I will say is, like, when it comes to the show and the product overall, and this kind of goes into just like the bigger talking point of AEW, because obviously their numbers are down. They pulled like a 500,000 rating this past week, and it's one number, but it has been trending down and down and down, and there's been a couple weeks where it goes up just a little bit, then it comes back down. And I really feel like, I was at this show, and for the 2 hours, like the main Dynamite show, like everything was cool. Like the people are into it, dude. Like they're loud. I don't know that it translated as well on TV because I watched back and I didn't hear it as good there. So
do you go alone, or do you take your wife?
I went alone. Yeah, she didn't like to deal with the crowds, but for me, it's like, I feel like, they're serving their in-crowd, very, very well. Like, they're giving them great quality matches, and everything, pays off nicely. But when you watch it on TV, you don't get that same excitement to me. I feel like they're lacking, like, that big story or, just the constant flow of the television. But the in-ring product, dude, it's rock solid as far as I'm concerned.
I love when they talk about AEW having the best wrestlers in the world, and they show Twitter edits of just like complete botches and everything like that. So, which again, speaking about botches, like I thought it was a little rough how what was the last event WWE had where
Clash?
Castle.
Yeah.
The Castle where AJ Styles, I think, had a mishap off the ropes, Jade Cargill had a mishap, Damian Priest, and everybody was picking on Jade saying she can't wrestle, but I mean, like, something clearly was messed up with that, so maybe we'll get into that later. So you're at this. MJF was there. Now let me ask you this, Gary, because AEW, a lot of the talk is about the numbers and the ratings, and it's hard to compare them to WWE. They're just, one company's been around. It's like comparing the Rays and the Yankees. Like, one's been around for a little bit, one's been around forever. So AEW's got to build. But as fans, does it really matter? Is it a big topic of discussion about what their TV numbers are? Because I mean, we're talking about it, we're watching it. I'm sure they're going to figure it out. WWE wasn't always the juggernaut that they are doing right now. I think there's ebbs and flows to stories, and whether your wrestlers are there and everything like that. So I just wanted to know, like, how important is it for fans, and are fans only concerned because there's worry that it might go away?
Well, I think that, I mean, they're up for contract renewal, and I don't know that they have. I think the exclusive window with WBD is almost up, and so then they can shop out to other places. But it's really just an internet thing. Like, if you go on Reddit, if you're on Twitter, yeah, all you're going to hear is about these goddamn ratings. I mean, over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know that the casuals care about it, but I don't know if there's many casuals watching the show. AEW is catered and served for the hardcore, and I think that that's one good, but it's also bad in the sense that you're not doing enough to reach the outside people. It's just like what we do here, like, you know, you and I, we do a lot with the Instagram, right? And we're trying to get new eyeballs outside of the Bubba Army. We love the Bubba Army. We support the Bubba Army just like they support us, but we want to reach people outside that world. So it's like we have to do certain things, like post certain videos of certain topics that will get us outside. Like when we go to the Caitlin Clark stuff, it brings people that don't normally consume our content, and it brings them in. AEW needs something that is going to bring these people in.
And what could that be, Gary? Because I mean, they sign every talent that's available, and I know that's good and that's bad. You know, MJF is back right now, which is a huge thing. From what I read online, the Forbidden Door coming up with MJF's match is not that big of a deal. I don't know. Some people were saying that the match seems like it's a little flat. I don't know much about his opponent. Do you agree?
I agree. They have him fighting this guy Hechicero, who's from Mexico, and from all accounts, you know, great wrestler. No question there. But it's like the general people don't give a shit about Hechicero. They don't know who he is, and that's a problem with AEW because, you know, Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, and then he started bringing on all these Ring of Honor people onto the main show to, you know, get the fans of AEW to go watch Ring of Honor. I understand that. But when you bring in so much of it, it confuses the audience, and they don't want to stay engaged because they're like, well, I don't care about this ROH thing. I just want to follow the AEW thing. And we're at that time right now where they're doing Forbidden Door. So everything makes sense, like in the context of you follow the product, you know what they're doing with New Japan and CMLL and all that stuff. But like the general people that may like wrestling but are not hardcore, they don't know about all this stuff and they don't care. They might have saw a viral MJF promo that blew their minds, and then when they watch the show, they're like, well, who's that Mexican guy in the mask fighting him? Like, we don't know who this guy is. And I don't know if they've done a lot of build-up for that either.
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to put the, you know, this other luchador or, you know, other guy over by having him wrestle MJF. But yeah, you need some sort of build up for that. So let's get into some WWE. A lot happened this week. Let's just start with the Wyatt 6. We knew that this was coming for a while. I love the way WWE did it. You know, they finally made their debut. I think I read it's broken all the YouTube records or how many times it's been fucking watched over and over again. Really cool. Just tell me what you thought about it, man.
I mean, as a guy who runs a camera, sometimes paid, sometimes not, like, I love the cinematic aspect of it. I love the appearance of it. Like, I'm watching this and I am just like blown away by everything. I'm a little nervous because now we got to follow it up, and that's always the number one thing you'll hear me say anytime we see something new. What's the follow-up going to be? Because that's more important almost than the impact of the debut. But as a debut, just 300 feet up looking down below, this thing was unbelievable. I mean, they got guys laying down on the ground with blood behind them on the like they had a bullet through their head or something. Like, this was insane, and it gives you so many questions to ask, so many little Easter eggs as you go back and watch it multiple times over. Like, okay, well, what was this here? And like, I didn't even see Braun Strowman the first time, but he was in there the second time when I watched it back, and I seen him back there down on the ground. So I love the way they did it.
Back there too was good. I heard Gunther was one of the guys they took out.
You see, there you go. I missed that part. I mean, I saw the guys, but I didn't see like specifically who it was, other than Chad Gable. And I was like, oh man, did he not re-sign or something? Like, did they just like kill him off right there, or like, what's the deal? But you know, it was really so well done, and it was so impactful. And I'm just watching it, just like, as a wrestling fan, just blown away. I'm just like freaking out, just like I was on Friday, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But I want to see what the follow-up is, because how do you explain guys that look half dead? They did a little bit on Friday where they had the security literally everywhere with the commentators backstage. That's a nice little touch. So let's see what they do Monday with it.
Do you think that, and I agree a little bit. I'm only nervous because I know that this is a lot of this as well, because it's, you know, a great idea, but they're carrying on. I don't know if it's, I say Bray Wyatt's legacy, but this was Bray Wyatt's thing. Like, it caught on before. I greatly appreciate that he brought his brother along, because I know that you've heard Taylor Rotunda, you know, Bo Dallas talk about how they were best friends and how he looked up to Wyndham. And, you know, I know from knowing the Rotundas, I know that Bray, when he was having his success as Bray Wyatt or the Fiend or anything like that, it was tough on Taylor, you know, Bo, Dallas because, he wasn't doing a lot of wrestling, and he was just, if he was doing anything, it was a joke. So, it was, to me, it's incredible that he brought his brother along as Uncle Howdy, developed this character, and now Uncle Howdy is leading this faction. We talked about this a little before. I don't know how they go about wrestling. I don't know, do they wear masks and stuff like that? Do you think that they're going to talk? Like, do you think that there's going to be a mystery? Like, can you see them all in a promo, all in the ring cutting a promo, or does that just take away from the aura?
I feel like Uncle Howdy will talk, but I don't know about the others. It does make me very nervous just in terms of how they're going to wrestle, because when you had The Fiend, when you had Bray Wyatt, it was one thing before he became The Fiend, where he could sell, he could lose. But when he was The Fiend, it's like a supernatural thing. And you can't have the supernatural guy just losing his first match or second match or third match. And so, like, look at what it did to Seth Rollins when they had that Hell in the Cell. What was that, 2019, I think? It ruined Seth Rollins' career for, like, over a year. He had to, like, rebuild himself because it just damaged his credibility to just unbelievable levels. And
I love a great deal just as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals or go out of my way just to save a few bucks. And if I am, man, it's got to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile says it's easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I'm going to call them out on it. Turns out, it's really that easy. It's that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. That's a nightmare. Wish everything was as easy as Mint. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk-to-text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your old phone number with you, along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer with your 3-month premium wireless plan for only $15 a month, you must go to mintmobile.com/Bubba. That's mintmobile.com/BUBBA. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Bubba. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower on 40 gigabytes on unlimited plans. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Talented guy. And I am nervous about that aspect of it if it gets too supernaturally, because on one end, you can't just beat these guys up because they're supposed to be supernatural. But on the other end, you can't just have them just maul through the entire roster, because then when you have other guys fighting other guys, it may not look quite the same. It's going to be a different presentation. That's the obvious thing. But like, when you just look at it, it's like it's going to be so much different from everything else. And how do they do that properly? I don't have the answer to it, but these are the questions that I feel that we need to ask so that when we're watching, we can kind of analyze from there.
Is anybody excited that Eric Rowan's back at all? I mean, I feel like, I feel like he was gone. I don't know if this whole thing's been delayed because maybe they had to wait for him to get back. I know he was with AEW, right?
Yeah, he was. Well, he made a couple of appearances. He was never, I don't think he was ever actually signed, but he was there for like the Brody Lee tribute. I think he popped in a couple of other times here and there, but nothing ever full-time or anything like that. He's just been like an indie guy pretty much.
So, I mean, what do you think of, I know that I think everybody, the internet pretty much figured out everybody that was going to be in the faction right now. It's Dexter Loomis, it's Gacy,
yep,
right?
Yeah, Nikki Cross, which I'm really excited about, because if you remember, she was in that, oh, God damn, I can't remember the name of that stable. It was with the Eric
Viking
Young.
guys? Was it like the Viking dudes?
No, it was with like Eric Young. It was on NXT, and they were like this dark kind of group.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And she was so good. She was like a highlight. She was kind of like popping off almost to levels of like early Rhea Ripley in a different type of character, but like as far as like the excitement level of the fans, like when they would watch that group, they would like talk almost more about her than they would some of the other members of the group. So I'm really excited for her, because I think this is something really good for her to sink her teeth into. And then for all the other guys involved, it's like, okay, now these guys are going to have something meaningful to do, which excites me a lot.
Where has Dexter? I have not seen Dexter Loomis in a while. Like, I feel like when Dexter Loomis, when they first kind of brought him on the scene on the main roster, I remember I was watching the end of Raw one night, and there was I don't know if it was a cage match or something, and the Miz was involved, and the Miz is like crawling down, and all of a sudden they pan and Dexter Loomis' head sticking out from the bottom of the ring, looking like a serial killer. And I know he had a couple things after that, but he seemed to fade away. Has he been off TV for a while?
Oh yeah, he's been off of there for quite a while. He had the storyline with what was that, Indy Hartwell, a couple of years back. Although that might have been an NXT thing, but
Are they married? Are they married at all?
I don't think so. I'm sure if I'm wrong about that, somebody will scream at me on Twitter about it. But I don't
love
remember
Indy Hartwell.
Yeah, I don't remember it very well as far as that. I just remember they had like a love thing on NXT, and I think it cross-pollinated over to the main roster. But the short answer is no, he's not been visible in quite some time.
Well, they did pick a lot of weirdos for this, so I am excited to see how it plays out. Now, let's talk about Friday night. Are we? You want to do the Bloodline action?
Oh man, this is we got Jacob Fatu. I never personally saw any of his stuff in MLW, which is where he's been primarily, but I've heard a lot of good things about him, and it's just another guy with some credibility that you can add to the Bloodline and try to make this group something more. Elevate them even more. I mean, I think they've been doing a good job. I know there's been some critics about it. They're like, well, it's like Bloodline light. It's not quite, and it's not quite where we were, but it's still, I still think it's good. I still think they're finding their way. And it's kind of reminds me distantly of like NXT 2.0. Like a lot of people hated on it at first, but as it's kind of grown, it's gotten a lot better. So I think these guys have slowly but surely elevated themselves. Now you got Jacob Fatu in the mix, and I really like that. Paul Heyman's acting, by the way, on Friday, which is great. He's like, Punk was out there. He's in his hometown. That's another story we'll get to here in a moment. But, he's cutting his promo about Drew, and Paul Heyman comes out, and Paul Heyman's like, take me with you. Like, he does not want to be here. He's like, Punk, you got to get out of here, and then, take me with you. And then Cody comes out. And I don't know if you heard this pop, but this thing, I watched it live, and this thing was one of the loudest reactions I've heard in years. Like, when he came in with that baseball bat, he hands one to Punk, like, this place almost exploded, like literally almost exploded the building. It was unbelievable, dude.
So are they trying to make CM Punk, are they trying to turn him into the baby face of the, Drew McIntyre situation, or is this just going to be all sorts of, mind game? Because I still feel like I don't even know if they have that feud nailed down yet for like how that's going to play out.
I think the long play is that Punk will actually be the heel because they've teased it. Like when he first came back, like there was that one promo where he looked into the camera but off mic and said, I'm here to make money, not friends. And there's been like little subtle things, like the thing he did at Clash of the Castle where the referee was bumped and he came out and he did the slow count and only went to 2 in the Drew match. And Wade Barrett, my God, I got to mention him. He was on the post show, like just screaming like WWE management must do something about this. Like he was selling it harder than anybody. And so Punk has done a bunch of stuff, like he ruined the WrestleMania thing, and the management's not really done anything to him, like in the storyline. So I feel like there's like these subtle little breadcrumbs, and I don't know exactly what it is. I don't think it's fully fleshed out, but I think like there's these subtle little breadcrumbs for something else. But in like the short answer is that in Chicago, obviously Punk is going to be your baby face and Drew's going to be the heel. I mean, dude, when he showed up and he banged on that garage door and the thing lifts up and he just got his bloody, lifeless body on the ground, that was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen visually. And he drags him to the ring, or not drag him, sorry, puts him on his shoulder and carries him all the way out to the ring and just drops him. I love that, dude. I thought it was brilliant.
I do want to get into the Bloodline light, but I want to focus on this Drew McIntyre thing. So I think you and I even discussed, that we felt like Drew McIntyre was going to win, that he was going to beat Damian Priest, that he was going to be the champion at, I don't know if that was his hometown, whatever, fucking somewhere in England. And, it was going to be a big deal, and it didn't happen, and people were upset. And I'm just wondering, and I know he's probably obviously making a ton of money, and they hold him in high regard. I'm sure he would have loved to win in front of them. What do you think the end game is for Drew McIntyre? Because it's just, maybe possibly beating CM Punk is great, and maybe he needs to get CM Punk out of his head to focus on the championship. But I feel like we are really delaying the inevitable of making Drew McIntyre champion again.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I watched the finish of that, and I understood once they did it, like kind of like in short where they were going, but if you look before the Punk interjection, it's like, here's Drew McIntyre at 2 Clash of the Castle main events, both for the world title, and he comes up short. So it's almost like, I feel like they're almost kind of doing a similar thing with Cody, where it's like they had him lose one WrestleMania, and then he came back on the next one and won it. But with Drew, it's like, man, they're really just like beating him down and down and down and down and down, so that I think that probably sometime either later this year or early next year, he'll finally rise like he should. I mean, I think he's very deserving of it. I think he's done a lot of amazing work, and so a major push is in order for this guy. Not that he hasn't had technically a push, but like, you have him in these world title matches and he's losing, especially overseas. I feel like something's got to give for him at some point, but at the same time, with Punk being the guy, and he's just come back last year, just came off of injury, I don't think it's fair to beat that guy either. So it's really hard. It's like, okay, is this the right feud? They're meshing well, so that would tell me it's the right feud, but the finality of it and where they're going to get to it is really going to be the tough question here.
But you would think that ultimately Drew McIntyre would morph into a total babyface, because out of the 2 Clash at the Castles, he got screwed out of both of those. I mean, obviously we know no one's beating Roman Reigns when you have the Bloodline involved, but then, getting screwed out of this by CM Punk, he kind of screwed himself at WrestleMania when, he was messing with CM Punk. But I think in the story, for some whatever, he has to get past CM Punk to, maybe get what it is. And I know that they're going to do that CM Punk Seth Rollins feud whenever Seth Rollins comes back. So, who knows what's going on. But mad respect to Damian Priest, who fucking, I didn't know if that was on purpose or what, got caught up in the rope. Drew McIntyre, I guess they said, checked on him really quickly before he kind of went back to business. Damian Priest then sold like an ankle injury for the rest of the match. So I just thought that he did a really, really good job. And I know we've talked about him as being the bisexual Undertaker and everything like that, but I take Damian Priest more seriously as a champion after the Drew McIntyre match.
Yeah, and for all the things that we've said about Drew deserves this and Drew deserves that, I do not want to ignore Damian Priest in any way, shape, or form. This guy has been unbelievable. He deserves to be where he's at. This is the problem when you have so many amazing stars that are just popping off and catching fire, that, it's like, well, this guy should be doing this and this guy should be doing that, and you should put this guy with the belt and all this and that, but we only have 2 world titles, and you damn sure ain't taking it off Cody. So if you want to make the change, Damian is the guy, but at the same time, it's like, God damn, he's been so good. Like, how do you take the belt off the guy? So it's a good problem to have, I think, but it's still kind of an issue in some aspects when you look at it.
I read something The Rock had said, I think the other day. He was doing an interview, and he said that they are on the 1-yard line of having the biggest WrestleMania and the biggest WrestleMania main event of all time. Every year, every WrestleMania is the biggest one of all time. And I get the hype, and The Rock is the ultimate company man, the ultimate salesman. Do you have any idea what that main event could look like right now?
I think it's The Rock and Cody, right? That's got to be the biggest thing they could possibly do. You disagree? You look a little hesitant.
Well, my thing is that it's just, are you really going to put a championship belt on The Rock? Or, I mean, there's no way that Cody doesn't have the belt, going into WrestleMania next year. Like, I just don't see, I see him being a champion for a while. I just don't know how The Rock inserts himself, and has the Cody Rhodes feud. I don't know where Roman Reigns would fade into the. Roman Reigns is not headlining a WrestleMania if it's Cody and The Rock. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Now, I did see something where we've talked about the last few weeks that Roman Reigns comes back as a babyface and all this. So I saw somebody that said The Rock could be leading this new faction of the Bloodline, and that Roman Reigns comes back with, the Usos and leads the other faction of the Bloodline, which would be, obviously the babyface. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I want to see that at War Games, though. I know we're way away from Survivor Series, but...
No, but I feel like they're setting up for Survivor Series, because I think The Rock will be part of that.
Well, yeah, and this is kind of the one time uniquely where the Survivor Series has the potential to mean more than it ever has. I mean, not that they haven't had good matches. Like this past year was awesome, but like there's never been that like super elevated hype that's gonna like bring everybody in. I think like, man, this might be a bold thing to say, and again, I might get yelled at on Twitter for saying this, but I feel like this is the one time where you could put Survivor Series into a stadium if you had the right match, which would be Bloodline versus Bloodline in the War Games. That I think is enough to pack a stadium, and that would be the first time that they've done that for that event. And I think historically they're talking about SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble being your stadium shows, not counting the overseas stuff, but this is the one match where you can put this in a stadium and it will sell out, in my opinion.
I really, and I, as a kid, I remember this, and I know that I think they've changed up Survivor Series, how they've done it, a lot. But man, I miss the traditional, whether it was 4-on-4, 5-on-5, a guy gets pinned, he loses, then you got, 4 guys against 1 or something like that. Just as a kid, the combinations of people they would come up with were just always, you would see all these superstars together. So yeah, war games would be great. I just like the traditional way that they used to do the Survivor Series. Like I think that they actually had that nailed down. They've been trying to tweak it ever since.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm very, very like what do they call it? Nostalgic for that era. I mean, like the first 5 to 8 Survivor Series is where they really stuck to that format. And even in 95 Survivor Series in Maryland, which I did go to, and they had the wild card where they put like baby faces and heels on the same team. Even that was a creative spin on it, because I feel like Vince, like I would always hear things that like Vince got bored with it. And at one point, I think in like 07 or 08, he wanted to actually nix the pay-per-view and take it off the calendar completely, which to me sounds crazy. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I feel like if we've got to have it still currently, I feel like the War Games is a nice tweak, because we had those like awful series of years where it was like you'd had the bragging rights pay-per-view after they would do the draft, and it'd be like Raw versus SmackDown, and then they'd try to come back again at Survivor Series and do the same thing and act like it actually mattered, when they would just have the guys floating from back and forth from show to show.
Yeah, that was the Raw vs. SmackDown stuff. Like, who gives a shit about that?
That was brutal, dude.
They said that that Jacob Fatu had one of the best debuts that you could possibly have, because he took out Kevin Owens, he took out Randy Orton, he took out Cody Rhodes, obviously making him look super strong, making Solo look like a better leader. The way that he was. Poor Solo, man. He hasn't won a ton of matches, but he's been involved in every important fucking storyline that matters. And he's like, no. And then he smiles. So we saw Jacob Fatu. We talked about him. His highlights on YouTube are incredible. Like the guy can move like, he's fucking Ricochet or something like that. It's unbelievable.
And I think real quick, I think Solo debuted at the last Clash at the Castle. What was that, 22, 23, one of those years? And so it's kind of a crazy, nice thing to see that, like, hey, look how far he's come since he just made that one debut. And I think that was when he costed Drew the match at the first Clash of the Castle. So that's a hell of a glow up, as the kids would say.
Man, I'm just trying to figure out how this Bloodline thing ultimately plays out, and if Roman Reigns does come back as a babyface. Because the way it seems like this is a faction that they're setting up to be around for like fucking forever. I mean, it does, like, how, when you have, 8, 9 guys involved, like, how could it just like dissipate? How could it just go away? Like, there's always going to be enough guys around to have the Bloodline. Even if Roman and the Usos are gone one day, like, I think you could still have it, because there's always going to be members of that can keep adding into it.
I think looking like, 2-3 years down the line, ultimately, I think they'll have their big blow up. They'll have their big match, hopefully at War Games. And probably what'll happen is they'll probably come back to a common ground, and then they'll figure out who are the main roster full-time guys. And maybe those guys will just go after various baby faces on the roster, or maybe themselves will become baby faces. But I think that they'll have a big blow up. They'll figure it out. They'll merge into something, and then they'll just be kind of like a group that's always around, almost like the New Day, but it'll mean way more than the New Day.
What do you think Paul Heyman's end game is? Do you think he's just like messing around right now? Do you think that he stays in the Bloodline picture forever? Even if Roman goes babyface, I don't know how much he would need Paul Heyman around anymore. Do you think that Heyman's going to stay involved with this storyline?
Yeah, I think at least through the next WrestleMania cycle at least. And then, if he still wants to be around, I mean, I'm not saying he's old and ready to go by any means. I've not heard anything that would lead me to think that, but I think it would be nice to see him sink his teeth into something new. I mean, there's probably some guys out there that could benefit from his wisdom, both on screen and off screen. And I think that would be, I think that'd be good. But I think at least through the next WrestleMania season, we will see him involved. And then I'd like to see him pivot out into something else.
Anything else burning with you, Gary? Anything we covered? I think as much as we could from the last couple of weeks, and then you went to the AEW. What was it like seeing MJF in person?
I was so excited to hear him talk, and then he didn't fucking talk. I was actually like, there was people around me that were like really hot about that, and I'm like, I agree with you. Like, you paid all this money. I was sitting 4th row from the ring, and we have some great pictures up on the Bubba Army Instagram, so go hit a like on that, which, by the way, Ray Phoenix and Mariah May both liked that post, so we got some visibility there.
Good job.
With some of the
Good
talent,
job.
but we were all like, I was probably more hot about that than anything else on the show. The fact that they did not let that man talk. He essentially got into this big altercation with Brian Cage and his squad and the Hechicero thing, and then we never got to hear him, say his piece. So that really sucks. And then during Rampage, they actually filmed. I was standing there applauding. I think it was one of the Japanese guys from New Japan or whatever. And I'm like, the camera guy's on me, and they cut that from the damn show. It must be the Bubba factor, man. I'm just going to say it right now. I had my Air Bubba shirt on. I didn't even have the proper, regular Bubba Army. I had Air Bubba, and they cropped me out of the fucking image. Go back and watch Rampage. You'll see me for a split second, and then they pan away.
Were you stoked to watch yourself, to get a glimpse of yourself when you rewatched Rampage?
Well, yeah, because I was like, hey, this is going to be a great, shot. Because for those that don't know, last year in AEW, when they were here in town, I was very prominent on camera for one shot during the MJF Adam Cole match. And you see this shirt, the Bubba Army shirt, and people were texting me. They were going on the Facebook. They're going on everything. Yo, is that, did I just see Bubba Army on the AEW? Some people were tweeting about it. They were really pissed off for whatever reason. And not just the hater people, but just generic wrestling fans, oh God, Bubba, oh yuck. And it was just a whole thing. So I went with the Air Bubba this time. I'm like, it's a little more subtle. It's not quite in your face. And they still crop me out of the damn picture. So I'm trying to get visibility for this brand. God damn it. I love this. I love this place. I love what we're doing here. I'm trying to get more visibility, and they crop me out. Tony Khan, we got to eat now, kid.
Somebody cropped Gary into the picture we took at the Tarpons game last night, where we got a whole crowd shot of everybody there. And I don't fucking know, dude. Blassie was right next to Bubba. I don't even know how this happens. I
thought it was Dr. Dan from a distance, but
I don't even know where Dr. Dan was in the picture. You can barely see me. There was no rhyme or reason to fucking where anybody was standing. But no, dude, listen, we'll get your visibility. We know that you're trying. Everybody knows how much you love this, so don't worry about that. But we will hold that against AEW for not showing your sexiness on the program.
Well, it's not even just me. I'm just trying to get the brand on there. I'm trying to get that thing seen, and they cropped it out, dude. I'm pretty hot about it. But I think to wrap it back around a bow as we wrap this thing up, the Jake Paul thing, that could be an opportunity, man. I think we could be seen. It's right in the backyard, and we'll have everybody there potentially if they want to be there, and we can do some cool shit.
Yeah, no, I'll talk to Bubba about that. I agree. I had no idea it was in Tampa. I don't know how this shit is not making my radar, but maybe I'm just disconnected to what's happening in my own city.
Fair enough, man. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, man. I'm good. We got this. This will be out today, and the ladies of the BRN will be out Monday. So check that out. And if you haven't caught up on your podcast at all, I'd say any time before the end of June would be a great month. I'm about 29,000 downloads away from my goal, and it's going to be tight. So I appreciate any downloads that you guys give me. We got a lot of fucking options on the menu. We're like the Cheesecake Factory of podcasts. So take it all in. They're all free, and I appreciate the support.
Definitely. And I hear Colton and Tuttle do this on their podcast, and I don't want to just copy them directly, but I like that they plug the Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. the Bubba Army. So I'm adding it in. I'm throwing it in here at the end. Help out the show. Help out if you like what everybody does. Throw $1 in there, even $1. Throw $1 in there and help us out. We love
Or go
you.
to Bubba Army merch, BubbaArmyStore.com, and you can get some, ton of shit there. So there's a lot of different ways to help the show. But I tell you what, even just downloading a podcast is good because, we have embedded ads and everything. So, a million ways to help out. So, Gary, man, you're helping out. I appreciate it, dude. And we'll be back next week.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, everybody.